Now we have to behave. We have to behave. We are being recorded. Okay. Hope that everybody, as they join, you folks are doing well. I will tell people to feel at home with chatting on the chat. In fact, I'll start that off just by saying, hey, happy Friday, everybody. I'm Max Akesi. Here's my LinkedIn. Feel free to chat whatever you want to chat. Where are you joining from? And some other exciting stuff like that. Okay, a lot of people will join at some point, but as we say, Ned, what is the phrase? Oh, like you got to come.
We mute on time. No, we start on time and we end on time.
Bingo. Bingo. It's only been like that for 12 years now, every month for 12 years since 2010. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to our Agile Austin Leaders Special Interest Group, the August one on August 5th. Here we are part of the Agile Austin umbrella. I will just go through a few introduction slides before we get to our speaker for the day, and people will join as they join. We like to connect, collaborate, and grow. Agile Austin, we just like to say we are all things Agile. With as a community, we share, we learn, we fail fast, we learn some more. We talk to each other, we learn some more. So that's what we do. And folks, just a heads up, you are being recorded because we are posting this to our YouTube channel. And if you don't want to be recorded, just don't turn your camera on, change your name, okay, that you're showing up in Zoom, and it will be as if you never were here. Wow. So just very quickly, brief introduction to myself. Max Akesi. I'm IT Senior Manager at PayPal and also Agile Austin President. I've been part of the Agile Austin community for over 10 years now, maybe about 12 years or so. And please, if you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, I put my link in the chat. If other people would like to do the same, go ahead. What we do here, we are here and we focus on leading Agile transformations. Regardless what role people might play, everybody can lead an Agile transformation. We meet the first Friday of every month. We've been doing it for 12 years, as I said before. Interesting fun fact, and some people like Ned that have been here for a while, and some other folks might know this already, but it's interesting what we were talking about when leading Agile transformations back in 2010 and what we're talking about today. In 2010, I remember sessions about how do we help people learn how to create user stories? How do we learn to prioritize a backlog? Like all these like really tactical things. And I feel that as Agile has gone very mainstream and a lot of these things are just expected to be known, but still, you know, a lot of people are new to Agile. In the Leaders SIG, we have like just transitioned to a lot of topics on psychological safety, prioritizing portfolios, doing a lot of things that are so much more strategic and people focused. I feel as if we talk a lot more about communication and empowering people, intrinsic motivation, et cetera, et cetera. Just a little fun fact that I wanted to share how things evolve and the SIG evolves along with that. Sponsorship and membership, I mean, go to our agileaustin.org site. I'll put the link there afterwards. Hats off to our sponsors, our platinum, retrospectives, that's the actual tool. So you want to hear more about that on our site. And silver sponsors, Meliora and WellSky. Hats off to our sponsors. Folks, I always tell people that the best way to learn and to know what's going on is just to take a look at our Agile meetup site and actually enroll, okay? Because then at that point, it's free, and I put the link in the chat. You get all these SIGs that we have, Scrum Master SIGs, Coaching SIGs, Leader SIGs. We're planning to come up with a product SIG. Ned, who's our speaker for today, has been facilitating the book club forever. You know, they're just things that you can just sign up, and we have about 6 to 7 events every month. Okay. And I will say very, very quickly also, enroll on our YouTube channel. We are getting more subscribers every month, and it's just awesome that all this content that we share is provided out there free of charge. Okay, so go ahead and do that when you get the chance. The board, yay, we've got a new board as of July. So happy to be the president of the board again for my second term. And this meeting is being recorded, which has been asked by someone on the chat. Yes. And we have myself as president, Steve Martin as vice president, and he's awesome. He's doing a lot of stuff with the CA conference, which I'll speak about. Angela is our chief product officer. She's just new to the Agile Austin organization, and it's awesome that she was able to take on the role. And I will mute you because I have the power to do that. Yay. My wife would like to have that power over me. Yes. So Ben Rogers is our CTO, and Scott Killing, who is not only our CFO, but is one of our founding fathers of Agile Austin from 2007. It's just awesome to have folks on the board that are just so involved for a very long time. If you want to tell us how awesome we are, feel free to contact us at board@agileaustin.org. Complaints are also appreciated, and ideas and all that. We have been really ramping up our volunteer efforts. And I'll just say, anybody that's interested in volunteering, go to our site. Again, I'm going to put that in our chat. We have a very active group of people that not only volunteer in facilitating our SIGs, but doing stuff in membership and a few other things. Sponsorship is a place where we could be doing a better job. So, you know, if you're interested, go to the site and make a request there. Okay. Yes, I put the link on the chat. We've got Ned for today. I'm not going to say anything more about Ned. It's just awesome to have an Agile Austin veteran like Ned to come and share stuff about prioritizing your portfolio. We've been talking a lot more about product portfolio, incoming work stuff a lot more, because that is a challenge that a lot of people have had when leading an Agile transformation, especially when you're talking about large groups at the enterprise scale. Thank you, Ned, for today. And JJ will be talking to us in September about shift left recovery. This really has to do with a lot of stuff that has happened with burnout and achieving your optimal performance after a lot of people have just gone through a lot of stuff in the last 2 years. There's a lot of PTSD that is going on from COVID and a bunch of other things that it created. So it's good to just know how to keep focused and keep on going. And oh, for those that might not be aware, we have on November 9th, our 10th annual Keep Austin Agile Conference. And I'm going to put the link in the chat for that also. But it's just great that we're going to be back in person for the conference. We're also going to have a hybrid option, as in remote attendees. So that's going to be very interesting at the Agile Alliance Conference 2022. They did a similar thing, and we would like to do that here in Austin on November 9th. November 9th. Shout out to all our sponsors. Shameless plug, title sponsor is PayPal. I'm so proud and happy of my company that is going to be title sponsor of the Agile Austin Conference on the 9th. And we have our platinum sponsors, Agile Velocity, always involved, always happy to have them. They're Hyperdrive, improving on Ackland Avenue. So folks, it's just good to have all these people support our conference. Tickets for members are going on sale next week, and more to come on that. Let's get straight to Ned. Ned, sorry, I got caught up in the excitement of Agile Austin Conference and everything, and took more time than I should have. So let me stop right now. It's very hard for me to be quiet, but I'll try. Round of applause for Ned that is going to presenting to us delivering quality without going broke.
Yeah, I revised the name of the talk. So and it's just because of the origins of where this talk came from, and it's not a real long talk. So if we have a little time at the end, we might do an exercise. We'll see. Also, it's the first time I've given this talk. So if you have comments about the presentation, comments about the content, things I can do to improve it, please put those in the chat or send me an email. And I'd really appreciate that, because I think this is a really valuable piece of information I'm going to share today, and I want to make sure that it comes across. If not to you, to the next group I present it to. So please do that if you can. Let me see if I can advance the slide. I can. There you go. Mandatory bio. I've been a full stack developer for a long time, but I'm a plumber. Other people do a much better job at doing user interface, I call them painters, than I do, but I really appreciate the fact that they can do that. I've been a manager and a CTO for an extensive period of time, but I'm in recovery from that. Got the t-shirt, but it stays in the closet. I've been either a full or part-time academic throughout most of my life, and I've been an Agile coach for the last 20 plus years. Actually, since before the Agile Manifesto, because as you know, Alistair Coburn says, you pick the frameworks that match your personality. So Agile is just kind of in my genes, I think. So I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to, I came along at the right time as people were starting to get into Agile and Lean. I've been at Agile Austin, like Max said, basically since the beginning. I was living in New Zealand in 2007, but I got to come home when it was summertime there. And so I got to participate in Agile Austin pretty much from the beginning. I was the education chair for a while. I gave it up just as COVID arrived. So I thought that was really clever of me. So just as we went completely virtual, and I've been the book club facilitator, as Max said, for quite some time. You can reach me at that email address. That email will actually forward to another address, because we're cleaning up and streamlining, and a little bit more about that later. And you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So that's
I think it's awesome how you kind of forget what year you started the book.
I don't.
Everything's a blur.
Well, I've been in the book club for the last 10, 12 years, but I don't remember when I became the facilitator. It doesn't matter, kind of blends together. It doesn't matter. It's just been a while. So let me tell you a little bit of the history of what we're going to talk about today. I'll keep this brief, but I think it's important. This was communicated to me by a lady named Ellen Knapp. This was back in 1994. She gave a talk, and you might be, boy, this is ancient history. How valuable can this be? It's really valuable. I've been using it ever since as a mental model, and I hope that you'll find it to be interesting as well. She was at a senior consultant at Coopers and Lybrand, which you may not recognize, but it's part of PricewaterhouseCoopers. I guess Lybrand got put out to pasture at that point. But she actually retired only a couple of years ago. I've tried to track her down, and PwC keeps sending me letters, form letters, robot generated form letters, and so I don't know where she is anymore. But I'll try to find that out yet. So what she noticed, however, was the quality award winners were going into Chapter 11. What? I mean, this is a period of time, the late 80s and 90s, when everybody was doing quality improvement.
Thank you for helping them.
Yeah, some of you may remember that, but everybody was doing quality improvement, and Baldridge Awards were important. And people were winning Baldridge Awards and then going out of business. It was like, don't you want to deliver quality and keep going? Which is where I got the title of the talk. You want to deliver the quality and also keep on delivering it over some time and not just going away. She did the research in the initial form of what I'm going to show you today. She gave this talk, and that's where I learned about it in 1994. And she actually published a book along with a co-author, and there's a link to the book. It's still in publication. The image is gone from Amazon, but you can still order it there if you want to. So that's kind of where that came from. And I kind of stick my tongue in my cheek and call this canvas a Knapp map. So in honor of Ellen, who invented the thing. So what are we going to do here? Why are we going to even do this? I'm going to give you a portfolio management canvas. And the idea is to get the things that you care about up on the wall where everybody can see them. So this might be, something familiar to us in Agile. We try to make things as visible as we can to as many people as we can, so that everyone can contribute and understand what's going on. So the third bullet on this slide is probably the most important. We want to have a mechanism for communicating where we are and where we're going. And that's really important. Again, I'd like to say managers' jobs in an Agile organization is to set the vision and clear brush. That's your job, right? Just clear the barriers and the stuff that's in your way. So the 4 bullets here say we're going to figure out where we are now. We're going to talk about where we're going to invest, because you never have enough to do everything you want to do. So you want to get everything that you got up on the wall, see what needs attention, and decide where you're going to invest in things. And then again, you want to have this as a communication for not only where we are, but where we're going. And then because we're agile, Ellen never said this, because we're agile, you want to come back periodically and look at it and say, how are we doing? Are we getting down the road? Are we accomplishing the changes we said we were going to do? And did we miss some things that we need to put up on the wall now and decide what to do about those things? So revisit, review, revise, and recommit to what you're doing. So that's what we do. And the other thing that I think is really important about this, and you'll see where this emerges a little later, is you want to drill down and iterate. Ellen's original customers were kind of the front office people, the C-levels, who were responsible for strategy and deciding where to make the investments. But I think this actually iterates at lower levels as well. And it's really important for setting your own context. And I'll come back to that a little bit later.
And
so first,
Ned,
sorry.
I just
Yes,
want to say very key, because I'm experiencing these same problems. And there was the third point that you had there was communication.
Yep.
And almost to like keep everybody aligned on how we're doing. Like it's
Crucial.
It's not just an email like every other month or whatever, but somewhere the people can go and pull that information and saying, here are top priorities, here's how we're doing, and just have everybody on the same page. It's incredible how disconnected people can get in large corporations.
Amen.
Incredible.
So and I love information radiators, right? I mean, that's the real advantage of this. It becomes an information radiator. This is not something that you build in the front office and hide. It's something you want to put on the wall where everybody can see it. So without burying the lead, here's what the canvas looks like. Okay, it's got 2 dimensions, which is good for a canvas. Otherwise, it's hard to manage. Across the top, the horizontal is the value. And it's not real fine-grained, it's assets and liabilities. And what that means is some of the things you're doing, some of the processes you have are adding value for you, for the organization, for the customers, or they're adding enablement, they're adding capability, giving you more options. The liabilities are costing more than their value, more value than they're delivering. Okay, and maybe things you have to do. A lot of the things we're going to put up here are things you have to do them, but if you're not doing them well, they might be costing you more than they're worth, and you need to pay some attention to those as well. But the more important part of this is the vertical axis, which is called salience. You might say importance. It's kind of a more nuanced word than importance, but this is the idea. And they're basically, we're going to classify things into 4 different categories. And this is the heart of the talk, if you will. This is the heart of the thing, is to say, what's this taxonomy? Because I've got lots of things I have to do, right? That's the prioritization issue, is where do I spend my attention? Where do I invest my time and my effort? And we're going to talk about that. And as you might guess, it's from top to bottom. So things in the top right, things you want to defend. But let's just walk down that a little bit. So salience, the identity category, the top category, you might even think of this as brand. It might be a better word. Who we are, who the customers say we are. So what's Coke? You can shout it out or just, listen. I say everybody's unmuted at this point. I'm not sure if they're
soda.
It's soda. In fact, I know a couple of Moldovan guys, and they said the word Coke is actually idiomatic for any soft drink. If it hasn't got alcohol, it's a Coke. Interesting. So yeah, it's soft drinks. That's who they are. How about IBM? This was a little harder. It used to be easy. Yeah, they were basically synonymous with computation for decades, and they got themselves in trouble because they weren't focused enough. And Lou Gerstner took over and said, we're big iron and services, full stop. That's who we are. That's our brand. That's what we deliver. Now, later on, they added this AI thing, and we'll see how that's going for them, right? But basically, they're still in the business of big iron and services. This guy, who are these guys?
Sell anything.
Sell anything. They used to be books, but now they're sell anything.
Customer-centric.
Customer-centric. What else? One more thing that you think of with Amazon.
Fast delivery.
Fast delivery. Hey, that's my show.
Hey,
yeah, that's it. That's the one. So again, it's not hard to figure out what these things are sometimes. And of course, maybe your aspiration doesn't quite match up with your perception. So you need to do the marketing. You need to talk to your customers to make sure that what you think you are is also what you are. Here's a couple other examples. UT Austin, big public research university. What do we do? Teaching, research.
Cheat at football.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that one. Yeah, that's right. And if you don't believe that, go look at the salary schedule for UT. A full professor makes about $250,000. The provost, who's the chief academic officer, makes about twice that. The president makes about $1.3 million. The coach, Steve Sarkisian, makes a little over $2 million, and his boss, Chris Del Conte, who's the athletic director, makes about 10 cents more than he does. So he makes more than the guy who works for him. Okay, probably doesn't have as good a parachute. But if you don't think football is important to UT, go look at the salary schedule. There's more to it than that, too. Because back after 2008, when the funding got to be tight, Powers, who was then the president, did not give raises to staff for 5 straight years. No raises for staff. Every nickel he got went for teachers, getting better faculty. He was recruiting faculty, so to support the teaching and the research. That's who they are. But not all educational systems have the same goals, have the same identity. Who is ACC? I say they're these things. That's what I think of. They do vocational training. They train people who aren't necessarily college bound to do effective work and be effective people in their workforce. They do continuing ed for people who already have some training perhaps, but need to keep themselves sharp. And the other thing that's in their bailiwick is they're affordable. UT, it's less expensive than Harvard, but it's still more expensive than something like ACC. And I know people who are sending their kids to ACC for the first 2 years, even though they plan to get a 4-year degree. They go to ACC, get inexpensive education. So it's a different set of, again, it's same job. It's a college, so is UT, but they don't have the same brand. So what else? It isn't necessarily good. Amazon also includes in its brand that it's tough on its workers. We hear these stories almost every day. This is not a good thing for Amazon. And they're now fighting unions and in some cases not winning anymore. So they've got some issues to deal with. Max was at Amazon for a long time. I don't want to gore his ox, but this is something that they've got a rep for now. So whether or not it's true, that's their rep, that's their image now. UT is a party school. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. If you're a student that wants to come to a party school, it might be a good thing. But the real customers for UT are the parents. Yeah, so it's a party school. Maybe you better make sure it's a safe party school. Something UT needs to do. Make sure if they got that image, at least that it's under some kind of control. And there's the other problem that they have that it's not necessarily a positive thing. It's been a while since they always start in the top 20, usually don't finish there. So that's why we fired the coach every couple of years. So football is.
Yeah, but they're good in a lot of sports.
They're really good at a lot of sports, but
they have Olympians in their swim team and stuff like that.
They have Olympians. They have a good ladies basketball team.
Yeah.
They have a good baseball team. But people say, well, how's the football? Yeah, how's the football doing? Okay, so yeah, they have really good sports in a lot of things, and they serve their students. Okay, so there we go. So the next category, now those are the two things that are kind of above the line: who we are and those things that we really use. Sorry, the next thing is the primary, which is also above the line. I got ahead of myself there. These are things that are specific to you that you need to do. What does Amazon have to do? Not necessarily in their brand. Maybe those of us who studied them know what they're really focused on. This is key. AWS, downtime is lost revenue, millions of dollars per minute when AWS is down, right? So they've developed that and they've turned it into something that is becoming part of their identity. They're starting to advertise it now. Don't build your own computer center, come to us, we'll be your computing center for you. We'll do it, buy it by the drink, buy it any way you can. We're going to sell you this, but it's a key enabler for them. It's moving into identity, but right now it's still a little bit below that. Logistics, the other side of that fast delivery isn't easy. Walmart showed them how to do it, and then they eclipsed Walmart, got even better at it. But logistics is about distributing stuff that people have bought, fulfillment and distribution. And boy, are they good at that. How about these guys? Classrooms, the things that directly support teaching and research. Classrooms, laboratories, libraries. faculty and athlete recruiting and retention, right? There's the athletes again, right? We got to get those guys in order to support that other thing in our identity. I don't know if housing and dining really fits there, but it's part of a residential college. If you're going to be ACC as a day hop college, right? People commute to ACC, they don't live there. I don't know if housing and dining necessarily fits here. Maybe it goes in the next category. Stuff you need to tailor to your organization goes in this primary category. Then there's the background stuff, which is much more generic. Everybody needs things like finance, payroll, worker relations. There's the Amazon issue again. IT, in most organizations, IT is a support, a background application. Even if you're a high-tech organization, I've been a CTO, I've been a VP of engineering in small companies, in startups that were very technically focused. You don't want the developers running IT. Because the developers, if you're a developer, you know this, or if you work with developers, you know this, they will pull down the latest and greatest toy, and the excuse is, I need to learn that toy to support the company. No, you don't want that, okay? You really don't want that, and we'll come back to that in a minute. With Amazon, it's supplier relations, and that's something where it's kind of a mixed bag for those guys, right? They need people to give them product, and they need to make sure that they're good to those people as well. And sometimes they're not so good. We've been hearing stories about that. UT, once again, below the line, grants management, fundraising is what the president mostly does, but it's not something that directly supports the university. It's just something that flows money in. It's generic, okay? Scholarship management, be nice to the governor. You know, the ledge is responsible for about 18% of UT's budget, but that tail really wags the dog. So you got to be nice to these people. And there's some other things there as well. Did you know that there's a power plant at UT? You may know this. It's just north of the tower. If you're walking down the street sometime, if you're walking on campus sometime, you'll notice this big, huge thing with cooling towers, you know, steam coming off the top. And there's a computer center. Well, a lot of people, IT, you need a computer center. Building maintenance, another example. All these things are pretty generic. Many companies would have these, and they're not necessarily things that are related to that teaching, research, and football that we put at the top of the list. And then there's the stuff that you don't want to do at all. Stuff that you have to do, data security. I wish we didn't have to do data security, but there's bad guys out there, okay? You got to have this campus police. You got to have police, you got to have fire, you got government regulations, you got compliance, you got taxes, you got all the stuff that you wouldn't do at all if you didn't have to, right? They don't really further the mission. They don't generally add value to the mission. They're strictly defensive, and they're strictly things you got to do. And you can kind of see where this is going then, right? So at this point, we want to talk about, though, where are we now? We want to look at these categories and take this thing and actually, and we're not going to actually do this group exercise. If we were in a room together, I would say, yes, let's do the physical exercise. Instead, I'm going to tell you what it would look like, and maybe later we can do it. And this is going to sound similar to something else we do all the time. Make a catalog of processes for your group or organization. One per yellow sticky note. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? And you're just going to make a pile of these. Take turns putting the sticky notes somewhere on this canvas. Is it an asset? Is it a liability? Is it salient? What's the salience? Is it an identity or a primary, or is it just one of the more generic things that are below the line? When everybody passes, discuss, and come to consensus on the ones that you disputed, and if a note gets moved 3 times, you just put a red flag on it so you can discuss it later, okay? That's one way to do this when people really are hip and understand what they're talking about and are familiar with the processes we're discussing. If they're not, you might want to do a planning poker type of exercise. This sounds like estimation, doesn't it? And that's the idea. I actually stole that from the estimation techniques. The alternative is you get an eight card planning poker deck, and you talk about each ticket as it comes up and decide and try to come to consensus on each one as you go, and then put it up on the wall.
Yeah,
you can use other techniques for doing this. Any estimation technique might work. Yes.
No, and Ned, I really like how you start already from here very clearly to prioritize in a certain way by saying this is part of our identity. Yep. This is a primary, because what I've had so much challenge is with people to prioritize continuously, prioritize when they're doing stuff very high a level from a portfolio perspective, prioritize when you're all the way down at your sprint backlog or whatever the case may be. But people have challenges. So to find creative ways, because doing the must-haves, nice-to-haves works, but it's just like, there's got to be more creative ways that really, so I think tying it to the identity and the primaries could be a creative way of starting to prioritize things. And
This is the
then
mental model. This is the mental model I'm trying to communicate today. And if you come away with it, I win. Okay,
yeah,
I've done my job. Okay,
I'm
that's all
I'm trying to come away with it. I'm trying.
I hear you. We'll stay with it. Okay. And you
And
might even stop
we
here.
do have a
Yep.
question. I don't know if you want to
Okay,
take it.
sorry.
Kelly asked about the information radiators. Now that
Oh.
we're not all in an office, I mean, if you want to take it afterwards or now, but it was more around now that we're not in an office location and
Ooh,
you can't
it's
just
harder.
put stuff up on the wall, how do you keep this in front of people?
Well,
Or have you thought about this, right?
Well, I'm actually going to show you at the end. I'm going to show you in fact, I'll show you some samples that I got out of a mural. There's other technologies that are available, but basically what you want to do is put it in a place where everybody can see it, right? And you can leave that online. You can put it online, and as it gets updated, it's visible as well, right? So I mean, people use Trello because they don't have their Scrum boards. There are technologies that you can use that allow people to share this kind of information. We just went through this one. And communicate. Again, it's an information radiator. The idea of an information radiator is it's up there on the wall where everybody can see it.
Yes.
And if you're not physically there, it's going to have to be in some kind of, take a snapshot of it and make the background on your computer. So it's sitting there. Whenever you clear a window, or I can do that with the Mac. You can just say, show me the desktop, and you can look at it and be reminded of it. But the idea is to have it someplace where people can talk about it, and we can share it. We can share mural. In fact, that's how we do book club up until recently, is we would have the mural for the discussion and have the Zoom meeting going on at the same time. Everybody can go onto the mural. At the end of this, I'll show you how to get a mural to apply this yourself if you don't have a physical room to share things in. Okay, so I'll come back to that.
Cool.
Okay, so we can stop right now and say, we want to communicate this. We want to take this question of where are we now? Where do we think things are? Put it up on the wall and talk to it and talk to other people about it, because you're going to break some noses, right? If I find out my functions are all below the line, they're considered generic or mandated, I might feel a little out of joint about that. And I'm going to come back to that. That's why I want to drill down and iterate. And I'm going to go back to that a little bit later. But it's really important to communicate, this is what we believe as an organization are the things that we need to be working on, the things where things are, who we are, and what we're going to go work on. And then you got to go out and talk to people about why it's important to get that stuff done. Just because you're doing something generic doesn't mean it's not important. It just means it's not specific to what we are as an organization. Doesn't mean it isn't a good thing to do.
I mean, like a mandated thing like data security and compliance, you have to do it, but from like a prioritization perspective of what it means to your identity, you put it low, but it's still something that you have to do. Right?
It's in that salience area, and we'll talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about planning and allocation. What do we invest in? What do we want to do with it? Well, generically, this is what we want to do. If you've got an identity asset, you want to defend it, extend it. These are all the things that people talk about with business strategy. I'm not going to talk about that today. There's lots of people who talk about that. Nobody knows very much about it, but everybody talks about it. This is the complex and chaotic domain. Who are we and who do we want to be is not something you'll ever find rules about. It's about figuring out, you go out and you do the lean startup thing. You do the experiments, you go ask your customers, you try things and see what happens. You might decide that an asset is a cash cow. IBM sold off their PC systems. They sold off Lenovo. They had a PC business, they sold it off. They said, we're not going to be there anymore. It's no longer part of our identity. It's a cash cow. We're going to take the money and run. Even though it was an asset, even though they were selling lots of computers. The liabilities, you got to fix or neutralize them. You got to get them out of the point where they're costing you more than they're providing. So if it's in your identity, if you got a problem with worker relations in your Amazon, you got to go fix that, or you're going to have unions. And maybe that'll make you a better place to work. I don't know. Maybe the unions is not a bad thing for Amazon overall, long term. I'm not going to guess that. Not my too political. Not going to tell you about that. Priority invest. Again, you want to invest congruent with the identity investments. So we want to figure out what you're doing with your identity first. Sometimes the priority systems become identity. Like, we've got the best dorms of any public university. We've got great dorms and great Facilities, we got all these good athletic facilities for students, not just for the professional athletes who happen to be students. We have good facilities for everybody. Maybe we make that part of our identity. Some colleges have done that. This is a great place to work. It's a country club where you go to school. And they do that. It becomes part of their identity. Background, if you're below the line, I've worked for small startups. Most of the startups I've worked for, we had a system where we basically said the stuff that is generic and the stuff that is mandated, that belongs to the CFO. It's all about minimizing drama. You don't want the email, the internal email, to go down because some developer decided to try to make an improvement, right? You want the internal email to just work. You want the food, if you got food showing up, you want the food to just show up. Now, if you're Google and you have this whole country club kind of atmosphere, you don't want to have to think about that. You just want to have it delivered. Low friction, low drama, and low cost. The creativity and the innovation that you're going to apply to these background processes is going to be keeping the drama down, keeping the friction down, and making sure so nobody, it's all there, but you only notice it when it breaks. And it doesn't break often. I mean, it sounds like IT, doesn't it? I mean, I've been doing this for the last few years. The only time people notice IT is when something breaks. That's the way it's supposed to be. No drama, no friction. Okay. And you want to keep driving the cost down. Innovation is about driving cost as opposed to driving revenue or driving the brand. It's about driving things down. And of course, mandatory stuff, outsource everything you can. Try to get somebody, I mean, if you got to do payroll, that's a good background example. Go to ADP, they do payroll. You got to do taxes and you got to do compliance. Go to a CPA, hire a CPA. That's their identity. They keep you out of trouble with the gov, at least with certain aspects of the gov. They file the paperwork, they file the taxes, they do all that stuff you don't want to do and you don't want to focus on. Hire somebody whose identity is do this mandatory thing. You let them do it for you to the greatest degree you possibly can. Okay, so this is, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but this is the kind of discussion you want to have. And here's kind of another group exercise that kind of goes with that. You want to add some green sticky notes for the processes you're going to invest in. Right? So the ones you want to move the needle on, you want to put some green sticky notes down. And the ones that are going to slip into the liability column, if you don't do something about them, mark them in red, because you might have to do something about those, but you're not going to do it right now. So you want to put opportunities and threats on the list. Okay, so that's what this is. Green is for improvement, red is for oops, for danger. Okay, and then, and I would like to put this in because I'm an agile guy and a lean guy, design and execute experiments and research, maybe you call them spikes, to support those plans. Okay, my opinion you may bring that research to the meeting, okay, to the meeting where you decide what you're going to work on next. So identify where you are and then identify where you're going. And you might want to bring that information to the meeting rather than have to do it afterwards. But the point is you want to do research. You don't want to just guess or have the person with the loudest voice or the biggest title decide where to work on things. Make sense? Are there more questions? I see Shlomo's got his mic on.
Yes, if someone would like to jump in and ask a question, do feel free. We do have one from Munwai Changa. Is it okay to reshare the slides that are before the salience primary? I suppose, can we have these slides, right? Like you'll post them somewhere, you can have the slides. And we'll communicate them out on Meetup. Absolutely.
Right. That's fine. Yes, I'll share a link to that by all means. Yeah. In fact, I typically share my slide decks. It's a Google Slides demonstration, and I typically share them with comment by anybody. So as I said at the beginning, I want your comments and I want your suggestions for improvement. Comment anything on the slide, and I'll pay attention to that. The next time somebody will get a better presentation.
And Ned, I mean, you really brought up some good points, and the point that really stuck with me also is you use innovation to address your cost savings also. Like you really have to think about that, and you add to that you have to actually design and then do spikes because you have to support your plans also. Something that happened in the recent few months is that we made a lot of purchases of really cool, innovative tools. We never used them. So somehow you've got to bake into the plan also, you've got to experiment. You've got to actually prove that this stuff is a cost saving. and everything. It's good to think about it and really have a focus on cost saving, but you've got to follow through and get that objective data of the cost savings and everything. But
Sure.
already having to think of having to use innovation for cost savings is so powerful, because it's something that sometimes we don't always do very well, right?
Okay. So, and once again, once you do your research, you want to come back, reconvene, revise, confirm, and again, you want to publish it. So again, we talk about that information radiator. Here's where we are. Here's where we're going. And we want everybody to know. And by the way, when you start publishing this stuff, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get people saying, hey, you missed one. Hey, this is more important than you thought it was. Hey, this is less important than you thought it was. Hey, we know how to outsource this one. We can get rid of it entirely, or you get rid of it for a much decreased cost. You're going to get feedback from people. And again, in an agile, lean kind of culture, you're going to get people to tell you things you missed when you came up with this stuff. So you want to get as many people in the room as you can, or certainly as many people in the conversation as you can around this prioritization process. Yeah. You're going to learn things you didn't know. Okay, well, where the investment this is the thing that got one of the ones that got Ellen interested in doing this stuff in the first place. Where the insurance company went wrong. They actually had problems with their investor relations. They were having problems at other places that were in their identity and priority cases. The one they went and worked on was about policy delivery. Right? We want to get a policy. It takes 6 weeks to get a policy into the hands of a life insurance purchaser. We're going to get that down to 3 business days. What do you do with a life insurance policy?
Especially if you're not about to die.
You stick it in a drawer, right? I mean, or you give it to your lawyer or your CPA or something. In fact, as soon as you sign the binder and write the first check, your insurance is in force. You don't even care if you get the policy at that point. You've accomplished your mission. And this thing's just going to go in the drawer. They optimized something that nobody cared about. Not a good idea. Well, where Ford went right. This is ancient history. Some of you will remember when quality is job one became the Ford motto. They were losing to the Toyota. They were losing to the Japanese manufacturers. People saw, Consumer Reports fell in love with Japan. They said they're making better cars than we are. Ford said, we're taking that on. And they actually invested heavily in their product quality. They actually took some of the learnings that Toyota and Deming and those guys had discovered, and they put them to work. And then they started advertising it. That's who we are. We're going to build you quality. Well, now it's just quality trucks. That's all they want to do, right? But that's what they're building because that's what people want to buy. They're the truck
SUVs and some SUVs. Still.
SUVs are just trucks with a box on the back. Come on, it's the same thing. Okay, but there's the danger, right? You got to be. Sometimes your best laid plans are just not. Things are just go the way they go. Citibank had the first ATMs in New York. They were the ATM company. And other people, Bank of America said they're going to waste their money on that. It's going to go down the tubes. We're not going to even try to match them. They lost big, right? Bank of America, they caught on eventually. 10 years later, everybody had ATMs. So what happened? This is a transition, right? With the upper right corner, ATMs were their identity. They were the bank that had the ATMs. You didn't, 24-hour banking, you don't have to wait. Banker's hours is your hours. It's anytime. Well, by the time their competition came in, they had better technology. They learned from the mistakes Citibank made. Now Citibank is trailing. It's become something that's in the background. You got to have it. And by the 90s, it was, it's a drag, right? It's something that just you got to have it. People, if you don't have ATMs, people won't work with you. But of course, these days, a lot of customers just go complete electronic. When's the last time you used an ATM? Unless you wanted to buy something that was a little itchy. Customers still get it. Some of the students still use cash because they have to. But you get the idea. Cash is much less relevant than it was certainly 50 years ago when they put the ATMs in. Okay, so whether you like it or not, some of your stuff is going to become less salient over time, and you still have to maintain it. It becomes a drag at some point. Okay, so back to the canvas a little bit. We talked about communication. We talked about revisiting, reviewing, revising, commit. The other thing I want to talk about is drill down and iterate. I spent the last 10 years working at UT in the IT department. Okay, we are below the line. Everything that is all the mandated and the generic stuff, you give that to the CFO in a small company. You give that to the CFO maybe at UT as well. My whole department, all of IT, is background. or mandated, right? We're doing IAM, identity management, because that's part of the security issue. We do a lot of security work. The Information Security Office is part of the IT department, although they report kind of dotted line, so they got some, so they can call foul on things that are going on and say, that's not working, you got to fix it. Okay, so they're kind of like the QA department. They got to have that autonomy to say, it's busted, go fix it now. We're going to shut that thing down. We're going to close down that server because it's compromisable, not necessarily compromised. We're going to shut it down before it becomes compromised. They can actually do that, and it's in there. So some of this stuff is there, but the idea then is to provide, our charters provide a reliable, again, no drama, common good services, and continuously reduce the costs. The motto that I proposed, I don't think the CIO ever took this on, was we do 3 nines. 3 nines? Why not 5 nines? Why not 4? Well, because if you think about it, 3 nines means if 60,000 students all try to register at the same time, 60 of them will have a problem. I can handle that. I can accept that. Getting it to 4 nines means only 6 of them have a problem. Do you care? What's the salience of getting that number from 3 nines to 4? And what's the cost of getting it from 3 nines to 4? It about doubles. It's much more, each 9 costs you about a double of cost, right? When you're in the IT business. So in fact, we want to be up 24/7 during registration and 9 to 5 on weekdays the rest of the time. That's make sure that the administrative stuff's available all that time. 3 nines cheap. And I added friendly to this because we are also consultants. You kind of see that on the identity in the top right corner, part of our identity in the IT department is we have the expertise and we help people get things done. Most of the applications are developed in the individual departments and organizations. We support, we're the plumbers. We're the ones that help you make sure stuff works. So Friendly Experts is up there. 3 nines is up there. We went from COBOL, one of the innovations. People were using COBOL and a homebrew web network. That's all it was in the 90s. We had to build something. There weren't any web frameworks. We built our own. Well, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do. Over time, that became more of a liability. It's a priority. We want to make sure that our customers can build applications. So we came up with this Python Django thing. Now we're moving on to other stuff, but I want to talk about that right now. Okay. It isn't always beautiful. You notice there's one in the bottom that says we have a comp center. It's an asset, but it's a mandatory. It's only there because we got to have someplace to put the boxes. We want to move to the cloud. And some of the stuff is already moving to the cloud, some already has. Software as a service, for some things where they work, we brought Workday in to replace our homebrew HR system. We went to Workday, we outsourced it. Okay, financial systems are moving, other things are moving, and we hope to turn the comp center off. It's going to take 10 years. It's going to take a long time to actually shut that comp center down, but it's costing us a couple $1 million a year. There's not all beautiful stuff here. If you notice, there's one up there that says peer training. We all taught each other. And they dismantled that training program about 7 years ago. So now it's departmental training and it's becoming a real pain. You can't not do it. You can't not do it because we've still got some of that COBOL. but you no longer have a central organization that's oriented around making it happen. Okay, so not everything is glorious here. That red one over there is there for a reason. That thing actually fell off the edge a little bit. I was really angry when they did it, and now they know why. I was belatedly justified in saying, don't kill the training program. But
so the peer training, I mean, if you've got a second or two, how exactly would that work? Peer training.
Much of the work that is done, much of the IT at UT is still running on mainframes. I said COBOL, it's actually a language called Natural, which is a lot like COBOL. Wow. So a lot of the stuff is still on the mainframe. Hiring people who are mainframe programmers is extraordinarily hard. Right? I mean, there are people at places like USAA down in San Antonio, but it's hard to walk up to a developer in San Antonio and say, hey, come to Austin where we got twice the cost of living and you can make half the money. It's kind of a hard sell. So what we've done for years was hire people who had the talent and the attitude and train them ourselves on how to use COBOL, how to use Natural, how to use Python, how to use we'd basically bring people up and then they would continue to work. And we had a system where you would have challenges where you go to work for your department, but you had people who are mentoring you, who were previous IT people. And oh, by the way, if you would learn something, the new technology came in the training program and the tyros would be teaching the more senior people how to do the new stuff. So the training
So
was
it was
going
very
in all
structured.
the
It was very
structured bridge.
structured, and you sign up, and there's time that is allocated to it officially, right? Yeah,
Small bonus on that, which is that everybody knows everybody else in IT. Doesn't matter if our managers hate each other, we help each other.
Yeah,
There's this collegial thing of we all know each other because we all taught each other how to do stuff and continue to teach people how to do stuff. So that's one of the things that's disappearing now that the training program is gone. So yeah, it's a sad thing.
Oh, it's very sad, very sad.
But we move on with what we have. I think I'm close to the end here. Yeah, I'm at the end here. And if there aren't any questions, I'm going to have to entertain you a different way. So I got something queued up.
Yeah. Well, how about if we give a chance to people to either get off mute or feel free to put something in the chat. I know.
Well, let me say one more thing here, because I call this a Knapp map. I've got it. I got a one of these things set up as a mural. If you send me an email with Knapp map in the title, in the subject, I'll clone that mural and send you a link to it. And then you can share that with your friends and actually do this. But there's no, if I had my druthers, we'd be in a room together with a whiteboard and painter's tape and build a matrix, build that canvas and populate it right on the spot. Okay, if I had my druthers, but not today.
Yeah, not today.
Maybe in November.
Maybe in November.
Maybe
Why?
in November.
You might be possibly speaking at the conference.
I might just offer this talk at the conference and see what happens.
Woo. Have you submitted as your submission as a speaker for it?
Not yet, but this is my audition.
Oh, well, hey, I hope timing is gonna work for you. Okay.
Wise guy.
Nice guy. Shlomi said, yes, it was great, clear, quick, high intensity information. Yes, absolutely. I think the key thing was very concise about that portfolio stuff and how to look at the portfolio in the different categories was a big deal. It was a big deal. If we don't have, let's give a second or two for maybe people to think of a question or any topic around this portfolio mapping thing we're talking about. And of course, Ned, this is information you're sharing more as in this is a good way to go about it from your experiences that you've discovered. Have you actually used this approach in the past when you were CTO or
since 1994?
Oh, since okay.
Since I went to this talk and I went up and talked to Ellen afterwards. I said, this is marvelous. It's a great mental model. I want to use that. She sent me her slides and I still have a copy of her original slides. Okay. Yes. If you really want them, I'll share them with you. But if the slides are ancient, you can also buy the book if you want to get an even more in-depth thing.
But what I think is really awesome about this, it doesn't matter how many decades old, it's still very relevant.
It's salient. Yeah.
It's salient. I can actually think of General Motors when they went bankrupt during the financial crisis of 2008, and I put this in the chat, they were selling more cars than any other car company. Just think about it. They were selling more cars than any other car company, and they went bankrupt.
The type line was not the problem.
Yeah, you see, it was like, so you really have to pay attention to the right information, the right bits. Oh, we have a question here. Someone voted 10 on 10 for Ned's audition. Hey, someone wants you to be a car presenting this. Oh, sorry. Like the exercise. Then Samira said, I missed a few minutes having to switch devices. I like the exercises with the sticky notes and the rule with it can only move 3 times. Any tips on managing emotions of the team? Sometimes people are very attached to processes and attached to their sticky notes.
Yeah, that's why you need to have a consensus process. And again, the psychological, which I didn't even talk about psychological safety, to use any of these tools in an environment, the openness of the agile lean mindset, where everybody knows everything, because that way they can be more effective. That's something that it's like fish fish to water. That's something you've got to work on every day. That's always a priority, is to make sure that people are able to talk to each other and express those concerns. How come my stuff is being classified as generic? I thought I was part of the primary. We moved the dormitory and feeding food services down into the third category because they're just generic, and we're going to outsource those, maintaining and building those dorms and so forth. In fact, largely UT has outsourced that to West Campus, right? A lot of kids, by the time they've been in the dorms for a year or two, they move to West Campus and move to an apartment. Yes. So we outsource that. We don't build all the dorms we need.
Yes. And
Yep.
Ned, I think it was so key that you called out that sometimes people that might come from an agile mindset perspective, we take certain things for granted as transparency and psychological safety. But it's key to be able to gauge what kind of environment you have when having to use this approach. Another question very quickly. Some people were asking about what the 3 9s or 4 9s mean, right? So do you mind to talk about, I mean, I've had that experience, just your site doesn't go out. It's like 3 9s or 4 9s.
Sure. I mean, 3 9s means that you're up 99.9% of the time. 2 9s means you're up 99% of the time. That's not bad. But when you look at, as I say, if you're Amazon and every minute that you're down is millions of dollars in lost revenue, you need a lot of 9s. Now, 5 9s is a lot. 9 9s is 1 second of downtime every 32 years. You probably don't need that many, okay? And it can be really expensive to add another decimal, another 9 to the decimal, okay? You can think of it the other way around. 3 9s means 1/10 of 1% of the time my stuff is not available.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, it's pretty much your uptime or your downtime, however you want to
flip it the other way.
Probably another question, and maybe the last one or something like that, from VJ. How a startup can use this canvas, or is it for more established companies?
It's absolutely essential in a startup. I mean, in a startup, that's where every single minute of everybody's time is precious, right? You don't want to that's why I said, don't give the IT function to the developers. They need to be building the product that you're getting revenue from. Get somebody else to do the IT. Outsource it if you can, okay? Even though you're in the IT business, you're building IT tools, don't have them, right? People bought, one of the things that I didn't put up on the slides there was in 2010, or 2011 even, most departments at UT had their own servers. They had their own server rooms with the air conditioning that goes with that and all of the service function. And the IT department began selling virtual machines. And they had them subsidized. So it was so much cheaper to move your personal application onto one of those VMs than it was to keep a server room in your little department. And the server rooms in the engineering got back all kinds of rooms that were full of equipment and air conditioning. Okay, again, that's an example of an innovation at the generic level that really removed a lot of costs. And there were people as recently as 6 years ago saying, I still have my own network in my own building. And the answer was, no, you can't have that anymore. It's costing you much more than it's worth. It's wasting your money and your time. But for startups, especially, every minute of everybody's time is precious.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier for a startup to go broke.
Absolutely.
Than it is a large corporate. So focus on your identity, your primaries, even more so than at the enterprises. Well, okay, I see a lot of people are saying, thank you, Ned, gotta drop. This is awesome, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. And I wanted to also extend to Ned to say, Ned, it's always great to hear from you, to learn from you. And I've done that multiple times through the years. And
thank you, Max.
Still happy to hear this and happy to hear this talk evolve, because it's something that we truly need. We truly need to, from an agile mindset perspective, how about if we start to talk about what happens from the portfolio perspective a bit more, lean portfolio management, new approaches like this that can really help people creatively like prioritize things and connect with that.
Old approaches that still work.
Old approaches. Thank you to everybody for joining, and we will be posting this on our Agile Austin YouTube channel. And I'll put a few links in the meetup also about our car conference coming up in November. We'll be selling tickets mid-August, so soon. Until the next time, folks, stay safe and stay agile. Okie doke. Take care. Thank you, Ned. We're ending it now. You're on mute, but I hear, wait, let me stop the recording at least. Take care.